the parade. Straight, straight, straight to the top. Working hard every day just to live a better way.
All right, welcome back to a special edition, a Saturday edition of Monty and the Pharaoh, Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. At the helm is none other than studio owner and business owner Jim Savali. Jim, how are you?
I'm doing good, bro. How you doing?
All right, man. And
excellent.
To my right is none other than David Sammartino, who's coming from, I think, Jersey. How are you, David?
Okay. I want to say it's great to be back in Long Island.
Well, it's great to have you. Used to wrestle at the Coliseum a lot, right? Back in the day?
Yeah, I've been Nassau Coliseum, and I think with independent groups, we went to Shirley, Long Island.
Yeah,
You know?
Great.
Back in the day,
Great.
early 80s.
Yeah, absolutely. So where were you in Jersey today? What were you doing?
Oh, well, it was a wrestling convention that we were doing, and I hadn't done, that's the first one that I've done in 10 years. So
Wow.
It's kind of nice to see some old fans come out and...
Well, I got to tell you, you came out of the car. You are in some outstanding shape, man. I cannot get.
Yeah, but I'm an old guy now.
You're an old guy in outstanding shape. I don't know.
Thank
You
you.
look a lot. I was actually showing Jim your picture because there's not a lot of pictures with you on the internet, like the older you.
Yeah.
And he couldn't believe what kind of shape I can't believe what kind of shape you're in. What are you doing with yourself?
Unreal.
Well, I'm working out all the time. I'm taking care of myself. I'm down to 150 pounds now. Those pictures that you have, I used to weigh 260.
Wow.
Yeah, they got you posted at 252.
But in those days, I was 21, 22. I'm pushing 60 now. So.
You push it. So how big are those guns you got working there right now?
Oh, they're not big. Back in the day, I had big guns. Now they're just they're just leaner looking now.
Now, are you a personal trainer?
Well, I had done. Now, basically, I'm retired now, which is a word I don't like to use because I like to. I stay pretty active. I stay busy.
And you're still living in the Pittsburgh area?
No. I've lived in Atlanta for the last 35 years.
Ah, smart man. I was about to say. I was like, wow.
Well, my family lives. My dad and his family lived in the Pittsburgh area.
Okay.
They stayed there. But I left a long time.
How do you like Atlanta?
Well, see, my wife's from there. I like Atlanta. But. Yeah, I've been there a long time. It's good to get out once in a while.
No, I hear you. It's good to come around and see. How does it feel like having fans come up to you from what you've done in your career, and how does that make you feel? Does it make you, bring back the old feelings, or what
well, it all depends what they say. Yeah.
Wait. What would a fan actually say to you to insult you? Come on.
Oh, I'm just teasing, but it's good. It's good to see everybody. It's. It felt weird today being there because, like I said, I haven't done anything wrestling related in 10 years. And my dad passed away a year and a half ago, so it makes it extra strange to be around doing stuff. Seeing all his photographs, and everything can get pretty emotional.
Yeah, I lost my mom about 3 years ago.
Okay, so you know what I'm saying.
I know. I don't think you ever get over that type of thing. For
sure.
Oh
no, never.
Well, I'll tell you, the fans. We're Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. The fans are very excited that you were coming in today.
Oh,
as we were, and so let's get to it.
That's nice
just like on our show, anything we ask, if you don't like what we ask, just say pass. It's all good.
Shoot away.
All right. So, real quick, what was it like growing up at Sammartino?
It was an honor, but it was pretty tough because wrestling came on every Saturday, okay? Wrestling came on every Saturday. Well, Monday was time to go back to school. So the kids would always, I was always in fights and I always picked on, that type of thing you always hear. What's your dad going to do against Monsoon? What's your dad going to do against Mortier? What's your dad going to do against Crusher Verdue? So I was always defending, and that got to be a problem.
That had to be a lot.
But at the same time, I felt very special because I was his son, And I loved my dad, and he created this inspiration and this drive in me to be like him.
So, I get that. Did your dad always hold kayfabe with you? These kids are picking on you, or not picking on you, just challenging you. Did he hold kayfabe and always said it was real, and did you believe it was real growing up?
Oh, absolutely. Because my dad came home with injuries.
Yeah. Well,
so I had no choice,
right.
And I did believe it, and I did and I respected what he did, some of the older wrestlers used to tell me when I got into the wrestling business, yeah, we used to tell your dad to smarten you up a little bit so that way it wouldn't be as bad in school, you know. But it wouldn't have mattered because they're still knocking your father. They're still knocking, you know, the man you love, you know. So, but yeah, sometimes it got to be pretty tough. I came home with some ripped shirts and bloody noses. You know?
All right, but how about the teachers? That they must have been Bruno fans, so they must have always, you know, took care of you.
It's a funny thing. It seemed like when I'd get into the fights and I was getting the worst of it, they let it go longer. Yeah, really. I think there was a jealousy among. I started in a Catholic school, and that's where I saw all this. You know, so it was like. You know, even the teachers showed you know.
Was there a lot? Did you feel like this tremendous amount of pressure, or?
Yeah, because then you were getting like scared of going to school and stuff, you know. And then I thought, well, I'm going to deal with it this way. Every opponent I had, it was like, okay, today you're Gorilla Monsoon, boom, boom, boom. That would like hey. Tomorrow, you're Killer Kowalski, you know. Wednesday, this guy, boom, you're Professor Tanaka. You know, to prepare and to try to do what I could do.
Okay.
You know?
Tell me about your mom.
My mom, my mom was she loved my dad. My dad loved my mom. She gave love in that respect. I was not close with my mother.
Okay.
And I've made that known, you know, throughout the years when asked about it. My mom it made it tough. I think it was tough on her too because my dad was on the road a lot. So that could put people in bad moods.
Sure.
That could put people in, you know, mood swings, you know. And, it was tough at home, especially when my dad wasn't there. And my mom was, you know, it wasn't easy being with my mom during those years.
Okay.
You know?
Look, you like every other family, right? Every other family had some sort of issues.
I would think so, yeah.
So, Larry Zbyszko comes into your life. We had Larry Zbyszko in studio. We had a lot of guys come through, and Larry told the story how he wanted to be a wrestler, and he kind of crawled under the weeds to find Bruno and whatever. This is maybe a strange question, but I always think about this. I don't know if you watch movies. Do you remember the Rocky movies at all?
Oh, all of them, yeah.
So there's that Rocky, I think 5, when Tommy Morrison comes in and Rocky's attentions towards Tommy Morrison. Did you feel some sort of jealousy at any time when Larry was involved in your family?
No, because I was real young still.
Okay.
You know, and
you didn't feel like Larry was taking your father's time at all or anything like that?
Oh, no, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that. Basically, my dad discouraged it to him, made him go to college, said after you go to college, you know, come with a degree from college and then we'll talk about it. And he did that.
Huh.
You know, he did that. But I was just a kid. I looked up to Larry in those days. Because I looked at him and envisioned, well, that's what I want to be. You know, I want to be tutored by my dad, and I want to come out, and I want to be a champion like my dad.
Yeah.
You know, so I was in those days. I looked up to Larry. You know.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. When did you decide that you wanted to be a pro wrestler?
Oh, since I was a kid. You know.
Just because of Dad?
Yeah, just because of him. Because I admired him so much. I loved him so much. I just thought, I always felt like it was something that I could do. And then when I got smart to the whole thing, I thought that was the neatest thing, you know, about it all. That it was more of an art to draw people in, and I thought that was pretty neat, you know.
Wow, that is pretty neat.
Yeah.
So.
And to create, and then those creative juices to create situations to you know.
So you want to be a pro wrestler?
Yeah.
Where do you get your training from?
Okay, when I started in '79, I used to go to the Pittsburgh Civic Arena one day out of the because they ran the show every month, once a month on a Friday, and I used to work out with Larry Zbyszko. I used to work out with Baron Cicluna.
Uh-huh. Two very big guys.
Yeah, when one couldn't make it, the other one would work out with me. And I had a buddy of mine that used to work out with me because in those days I was competing in bench press contests. And I had a training partner, and he wanted to be a wrestler. And when we couldn't get anybody to work out with us, me and him would go in there and go over stuff that they had taught us, and we would, get the feel of the ring and everything. But in those days, yeah, it was. In other words, like people say, well, didn't you ever work out with your dad? And I said, I never worked out with my dad once on the mat. In the backyard, a couple of times we'd lock up, he'd fool around a little bit, but I mean, never like,
Right.
Like a Stu Hart or somebody.
No, right.
Like
I got you. But Cicluna was a good trainer. Did you work with Johnny Rods at all?
No.
Okay.
I wrestled Johnny Rods.
Sure.
When I turned pro and all that, but it was basically with Zbyszko and Cicluna.
Okay. When do you finally... I know you get your training down in the South a little bit, and then when do you get the call to the WWE? How does that even come apart?
Okay. I was scheduled to go to the AWA. And then my dad had told me, I was working in Georgia. I was wrestling back and forth through Georgia. And then the territory was really down and everything, and I was working for Ole Anderson at the time, and then I can't remember, but an opportunity in the AWA came up, and that automatically meant better money.
Sure.
So I think I was scheduled to go into there, and then my dad had called me and told me about this that there's going to be an opportunity here, but it's up to you now. I'm going to be the commentator, and you're going to come. But it said it's up to you now, And I remember, oh yeah. And then we started. Then I came in for TV in '84. It was like I think it's September of '84, and we started on the same day. He started as a color commentator, and then I had my first match on TV, and that's. And I thought I was going to, really climb. It was going to be groomed and climb. Because my work was really pretty good then.
It was very good. I want to go back, but first, who wanted you in? Was it junior or was it senior bringing you in at that time?
Oh, I don't know about that. But Vince McMahon was already dead.
Okay.
If Vince McMahon Senior was alive, I would have got it all.
Yeah, you would have been gold.
I would have done a whole lot better.
So let's go back to Georgia Championship Wrestling. We've had plenty of wrestlers come through here, and the one thing they have in common is I don't think any of them were a fan of Ole Anderson.
Yeah.
When
I look back on it now, I was an immature kid. Okay. But basically, he seemed like, when I look back at it now, to be honest, he was in a tough position. He was a booker. And he was a rough edge type of guy, and he wanted success, and I can admire that. I was just a young, I had no patience.
Well, it's a double-edged sword, right? It's like you're Sammartino, so huge for whatever area takes you on, right? Because you're a selling point. But then on the other hand, maybe there's some jealousy going on involved with that. Did anyone ever give you problems?
Like what, a promoter?
Promoter, wrestlers.
Yeah, they all go. No, I mean, Ole Anderson, basically, I guess he was a good guy, but if you're a young guy in the business, and if you have if it looks to be like you have an attitude, they're going to try to, discourage you a little bit and mess with you a little bit. And he fired me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, I remember the situation was we were in Richmond, Virginia one time. And George Scott was the booker, and he got fired. And my dad had it worked out with George Scott that we're going to build David up, but we're going to build him up. But he can do. He's just learning. He can do. He can be the journeyman in house shows, but on TV he's got to go over. He can't do no jobs on TV.
Okay.
And that was. Now
this is your dad saying this.
With George Scott.
Gotcha.
My dad worked that out with George Scott, because so I could have a promising career because I showed some talent. So George Scott gets fired. Crockett's fired George Scott. They bring Ole Anderson in. So naturally he wants to do everything in his own way.
Right.
So right away he wants to beat me on TV. Mm. So they had pretty good radius for their TV, and it was going up into the New York markets then, the Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, early 80s, 81 I think it was. And so I told him, I says, Mr. Anderson, I says, my dad had worked out with George Scott that I don't do jobs on TV. Well, and he was like a loud type of guy. And he says, well, if you can't do the job for me on TV, then you can't work for me here. So you can pack up your bag and get the F out of here.
Right.
Eggs, just like that. So, and I started screaming my head off. And I says, I came in a dressing room, and I guess I was emotional. I'm embarrassed now when I think back to all those days. But I just said, I can't believe I just got effing fired. You know, just following the rules, what the
agreement was.
Yeah, and I couldn't believe it. And I was angry. You know, and I just shut my mouth off.
Did you talk to your father about that?
Yeah. Well, he said, okay, well, you know, you did the right thing. You know, but
head on north.
Yeah, but then later on, we kind of patched things up, and because I worked for him back in Atlanta. And,
right.
You know, it was, you know.
All right, so you head into the WWE. Land, you know, at that time when you came, it was the land of the big people, right? The big wrestler.
Yeah.
You're 5'8" or so, right?
Yeah.
5'9".
Yeah.
Big guy. Did you hit the juice?
Yeah. Oh, that's been.
Did you?
Well, when you first saw me, there was no juice.
So you
I was bench pressing 500 pounds.
Yeah, you were a big kid.
Yeah. Well, I had to be big. If I wasn't going to have height, I had to be big.
Absolutely.
So no, in those days, I started the steroids for one reason. I wanted to look better. I didn't like when I saw myself, I didn't like the way I looked. I was 260 pounds just about, and I just didn't like the way I looked, because you had guys like Ricky Steamboat and Barry Windham. You had all these good-looking, sexy, good guys.
Okay.
You know, I wanted to change my appearance, and I thought, well, boy, I built all of this hard muscle. To diet it away, you know, I felt like if I got on steroids while I was dieting and taking off, I would save a lot of the muscle, because you're going to lose both muscle and fat when you're losing weight.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to keep as much as the muscle as I could. So I didn't take a lot. I just took enough to stimulate my metabolism to where, you know, I could keep what muscle I had.
Do you think the gas has a bad rap, though? I mean, you know, a lot.
Well, it's bad for you. I don't condone it to anybody. You know, it's a choice you have to make. In wrestling, it's a aesthetic type of thing, because it's not a competition thing, because that's all done in the office. But in sports, I can see, you know, where it goes, because it's competitive, and, you know, there's big bucks involved, and you know, yeah. But it's not good for your health. That's a proven fact. People have died from it. People abuse it. People, you know, get hooked on it, because you do get hooked on it. Because like your body, when you're on that stuff, you feel pumped all the time. It's like you're working out, you get a pump.
Yeah.
Well, you feel like that without working out. So when you get off that stuff, you feel soft again.
Right.
You know, and that's the difference. It makes you feel an addict. You like to feel like this, and you don't like to feel like this. And you can tell the big difference when you're on and you're off.
Okay.
So that's where it's the addiction. Because I know there was sometimes when I got on it, I didn't want to get off. You just like would stay on like for a month, get off for a couple of weeks, then go back on, give your body a rest from it.
Yeah.
You know,
but you just
sometimes you don't.
And the pressure was there, right?
You take less.
But you don't, and you're really supposed to cycle that stuff out, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, you're in Allentown, you're doing all this stuff, and all these guys are shooting up juice too. So, you know, how about recreational drugs?
Well, you're going to where I've said before. Yeah, I smoke marijuana.
Okay.
You know, I'll tell you a reason why I started that, because I thought it would make me feel better on airplanes. Because I've been in some nasty airplane rides. I've been in an airplane one time. We're going from a little airplane, a commuter. Did you ever fly commuter airplanes?
Yeah, all the time.
They bounce around a little bit, don't they?
A little bit.
Well, this was smaller than a commuter, and we were in Topeka, Kansas,
okay,
going to Kansas City. So it's just a little hop,
quick
skip,
flight,
and a jump. There's not even a stewardess on the plane. And it was like an 8-seater. As we're getting ready to take off, the door flies open.
Oh, boy.
And I started screaming at the pilot, "Hey, wait!" Because I'm thinking as soon as that goes up, we're gonna get sucked out of the thing. And then he had to make a U-turn and close the door.
Okay.
But I started doing it, but it made me feel good.
Okay.
It made me feel better. And then the homesick thing comes in hand. You get a little homesick on the road. Well, that makes you feel a little better.
Sure.
I enjoyed it, and it makes you hungry.
Oh yeah.
So I didn't have a problem.
And then
with
you're
that,
good there, right?
Yeah. So,
all right, that's cool. So you're around some icons at that time, right? So now the WWE is going to make their advancement on the regional territories. You're in at that moment. You're there at that time.
Yeah.
Andre, you have any stories with that involvement with Andre the Giant at all?
With me?
Yeah. Any conversation? Like, did you spend any time with him? Did you do anything
just
with
said
him?
hello to him. You just say to him, "Hi, boss. How are you?"
Yeah.
That's all.
So never went out of the way. How was he with your father? Was he tight with your father, or they were kind of just business
I
people?
never heard anything negative. I think my dad liked him. I think he liked my dad.
Okay.
Yeah,
How did guys like the new guys that came in, like Orndorff, Piper, and Schultz? How did they treat you?
I got into it with Schultz one time. You know, he was.
Can you tell that story?
Yeah.
And he was in the station too.
Okay, well, I got along with him after. You know, he got pretty rough with me in the ring, and I got rough with him back and set the tone, and it was okay. We were okay after that.
Okay. So what, he was just trying to just show you who he was, and then you just settled down in the locker room?
He hit me pretty good, and I nailed him back.
Okay.
And mine was more devastating than his. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
But afterwards, we got along after that.
Okay.
You know.
And how'd you get along with
And
Pipe?
sometimes that happens.
It happens in life.
It's a physical business. Sometimes,
Absolutely.
you know, it's little things flare up.
But you want, and especially being where you come from, right? People are going to
But
test you,
Orndorff
right?
and who'd you say, Orden?
Oh, and Piper.
Piper. Oh, I got along great with them.
Yeah, they were gentlemen.
They were great guys.
How about Hogan? How did he treat you?
Very good.
That's
I never
great.
had a problem with Hulk Hogan.
And did you have any conversations with Vince Jr. during this time?
I never talked to the guy. One time, I said one thing to him. When I never talked. My dad did. My dad acted as like my agent.
Okay.
I was just to keep my mouth shut and do what I was told.
Mm-hmm.
Shut up, save your money. That started rubbing me wrong because I wanted to climb.
Yeah.
And with that type of thing, I wasn't climbing anywhere. So that's how I was treated, just like a kid. My dad would handle business and make sure that he had his thing done, and just to keep your mouth shut, just do what you're told.
So that was kind of stressing you out then at that
I
point,
didn't
right?
like
Because
that.
you wanted to do this on your own, right?
Yeah. I wanted to do it on my own, but I wanted to be pushed. I wanted to, like the other guys were
Sure.
getting, like the Wyndhams and the Rotundos, and like all those guys. I felt like I had talent and I could back up the name. That was no pressure to me to have the name.
That's great.
Because if I didn't have talent, then there would be pressure. If I wasn't strong and pressing Ken Patera over my head in Madison Square Garden, you know what I'm saying? I could do things. I could get things done.
As a pro wrestler, so you in this interview already, you talked about how well you wrestled, which we all think you were a great wrestler.
Oh, thank you.
How did you feel your mic skill was? And what is more important, mic or mat skills?
Both. Yeah, they both have to be. One goes with the other. Well, how did you really ever see what my skills were? Because I was never in an angle with anybody.
Well, I got to be honest with you. One thing that bothered me, again, I grew. You're not much older than I am, but I watched wrestling, right? And I was a fan of yours, and I could actually remember a Piper's Pit where you're actually there on Piper's Pit, but it was actually the Tonga Kid. They rolled that into a Tonga Kid angle. It kind of bothered me.
Yeah, but I know which one you're talking because I just saw that not too long ago. Yes, I mean you're not going to be on all the time. And I was probably nervous then too because I had just started there.
Yeah.
But it was there. And any time they ever did an angle, they would never do one with me and my dad on TV. It was always in a club. It was old school in the club. In other words, you did it on the club, but it wasn't done on TV, so that you come back the next month with the cage match or the Texas death match or whatever it was. But everybody else was getting their angles done on TV so they can go to Los Angeles, so they can go to Toronto, so they can go to Chicago and New York. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
They could take it, and that's where you make the money.
Absolutely.
So with us, it was just old school, do it in the club and bring up the club and this and that. But doing that stuff in those same clubs, we were drawn. We were drawn. We were outdrawn Hogan and all them. Yeah, my dad was still here. He'd tell you, he'd talk your ears off on that.
I gotcha. So you do have the opportunity to wrestle in WrestleMania 1 against Brutus Beefcake. How does that come about?
I don't know. The matches were made. WrestleMania 1, it wasn't like it is today. It was a big show.
It was huge.
It was a big show, but I mean, it was like a... I didn't look at it as a big special thing. The only big special thing about it, I guess, they're going to have these dancers, and they're going to have Liberace, and they're going to have some celebrities take part in the show. But it was just a big stacked card at Madison Square Garden. My dad was going to be in my corner, and boy, that was going to be special. And it turned out to be this big phenomenon, okay?
Right.
But then it was just a big show, and it was closed circuit. It wasn't pay-per-view. That was still in closed circuit.
That's right.
days, So it was like, I guess I guess it wouldn't have been no different when they closed circuited Shea Stadium for Antonio Inoki, and they had my
Muhammad Ali,
dad,
yeah.
Hanson in the cage,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So I just took it like that, But now it became this big, outrageous thing.
Speaking of Hanson, I know you wrestled him later on in the AWA. He was in studio. He spoke about when he broke your father's neck on accident, how he got a lot of heat from the boys because they all had their money thing.
Yeah.
At that point, did you think that?
I said, well, I was in high school. I said, one day I want to get that son of a gun. I want to get him.
Great.
I tell him the story like we would laugh about it. And he was a good guy. He was a good guy to me. He was good.
So let's get back to WrestleMania 1. I know your father was acting as your agent, but are you aware of what's going on with Vince trying to take over the regions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because he was. He was. Because. That's what the Georgia thing was happening, and I was in Georgia for, but I know everybody, because all the stars from all the territories were coming in.
Right. Okay. So real quick, November 22nd, 1985, Philadelphia Spectrum. You end up with a match with Ron Shaw.
Okay, that's why. Okay, well, I was angry because this goes to the grooming part. Here I've beaten Ron Shaw on TV, and he's a nice guy, good way. I'm not knocking him, but it's just the way that everything was put together. Here's a guy that I have been beaten on TV, not only in the Independence TV, but also in the WWF. And they put me on a packed house. They put me with him in Philadelphia. Like who? Well, who? How is David getting better? He's being the same guy that he's been. And it just showed me right then and there. Well, see, they're not doing this. Is ridiculous. Even an idiot like me can see that there's nothing going to be done. They're just, there's no grooming. They're just, give him the Duke, and that'll make him happy. That wasn't making, it just. I was angry, so I thought, okay. And there had been a couple of things prior to that. I was getting like, well, it shows my immaturity and it shows my impatience. But at the same time, I've been around it for a while, and I know what you feel, you see, And I thought, well, I just got mad, and I just says, well.
Did you call it right on that spot, or did you just?
I told Ron Shaw beforehand, this is what we're going to do, and I made him do it.
Okay.
And I just didn't care at that point. I just said, well, we're gonna show. But you know what? I worked hard doing it. I didn't just I made sense of it.
No.
I let him hurt my back,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
showed him. Boom. I made a match of it, and he hurt me, and he was the better guy that night. I just didn't, what do they call flop or just whatever.
All right, look, I understand you had some traffic problems. I'm going to get you out of here because I want to get you on your flight, okay?
Oh, bless
the
you.
fans are going to be a little upset, but it's all good. I really appreciate you coming here. So I'm just going to go.
Maybe I can come back and we can go in tomorrow.
I know the fans would, and I really appreciate it. So I'm just going to go to the last question.
Go ahead.
I know you and your father became estranged a little late in your life.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would have just done differently, maybe to make that better, that you could have maybe have done?
Sure. There's always, sure. But there was things that my dad hurt me with too. But you know what? I love my dad. I always loved my dad. Show me any father and son that sometime in their life that they had maybe bumped heads a few times. That happens in life.
Right.
Life is tough. Life is hard. And sometimes you have to accept things, and you just have to keep trying to move on. But I'm so thankful. And I'm so appreciative that I had Bruno Sammartino for my father, because he was a great dad, and I miss him, and I wish things could have been better. They didn't happen, but he's always in my heart, and I dream about him every night.
Well, as a wrestling fan to you, we appreciate you becoming a professional wrestler. You were excellent.
Oh, thank you.
Growing up, me and my friends were a big fan of yours, and we appreciate you coming on the show.
Well, I appreciate it. It was an honor to be here.
All right. This has been Monty Nefaro. We'll catch you tomorrow where we have Bill Alfonso in studio.